Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala program in Women's Studies. I am Vibhuti Patel, Professor and Head of Economics Department of SNDT Women's University. Today we are going to broach the subject of gender responsive budgets in India. Gender budgeting has become a buzzword in the 21st century and it's gaining increasing acceptance as a tool of engendering macroeconomic policy making. And the 4th World Conference on Women held in Beijing in September 1995 and the platform for action that was adopted, which is called for gender perspective in all macroeconomic policies and their budgetary dimensions. In a market economy, money is a very important issue. The outcome document of the UN General Specific Session on Women held in June 2000 also called for the nations to mainstream gender perspective into the key macroeconomic and social development policies and the national development of any programs that you have should have a gender perspective. The emphasis on gender budgeting was also placed in the 6th conference of the Commonwealth Ministers of Women Affairs held in New Delhi in April 2000. In India, till 2004, the process of gender budgeting was post facto effort to dissect and analyze and thus offset any undesirable gender specific consequences of the previous budget. So, it was more like a gender audit of budget. But from 2005 onwards, the scenario has changed. Due to consistent lobbying by the gender economists and women's groups, for the first time in 2005, the Ministry of Finance gave a mandate to all ministries to establish gender budgeting cell in January 2005. At present, 54 ministries and departments have formed gender budget cells and have provided annual reports and performance budgets highlighting budgetary allocation for women. The first gender budgeting statement, which is called GBS, in Union Budget 2005 and 6 included 10 demands of grant. In 2006 and 7, the GBS got extended to 24 demands for grants under 18 ministries and departments of the Union Government and 5 Union territories. During the current financial year, like VVC 2017-18, the gender budget statement has covered 34 demands for grants under 27 ministries and departments and 5 union territories. Objectives of gender budgetives are very clear that we have to translate gender commitments into financial commitments. The purpose is to improve women's living standards and their prospects for economic empowerment. Gender commitments made by the state can be translated into financial commitments with the help of gender budgeting, and gender audits of statistics and indicators provides visibility of women in the contributions and the stakes and the realistic picture for allocation of resources for women specific projects and also gender neutral projects such as MG Narega or anti-poverty programs. The gender audits of documents of the state and central governments such as Towards Equality Report, Shram Shakti Report, National Perspective Plan for Women or State Policies for Women or like Women's Commission and Women Empowerment Policy 2001, now we have Women Empowerment Policy 2016, amendments in the Panchayati Raj Institution Act granting earlier 33% reservation of seats for women and now in several states 50% state reservation for women, National Labour Commission policy and various like human development reports prepared by the state governments and the Planning Commission of India. I think all of them have focused on women's needs and demands and aspirations, and they need to be translated into actual material condition which can enable women for various developmental activities. Now, the macroeconomic scenario of India, which we have seen in after the new economic policy, where the structural adjustment program, zero budgeting policy, globalization policies have directly increased women's unpaid work burden and thereby increased women provided subsidy in economy, and that happens because of the devaluation of real income due to inflation, leading to price rise, reduction in the purchasing power, the essential commodities become very difficult to procure, erosion of public distribution system, the ration system, reduction of services deferred by a public health system, trafficking of girls for child labor, sex trade, forced marriage as a result of destitution, privatization of education and rising male unemployment in traditional sectors have made women bear disproportionately high burden of the family responsibility. And the families have they have seen the women have to shoulder responsibilities for providing meals and look after the sick people, because the inpatient services have reduced, and also the indirect taxes which are paid by every citizen, that also shows that the women are more and more burdened. The studies of, say, the various kind of taxonomy has shown that this scenario has also increased malnutrition and hunger and overall deterioration of standard of living of the people. It is in this context that we are examining implications of planning process on gender budgeting. The Planning Commission of India has always focused on women's issues as per the perceptions of their members on women's status within the economy. During the first 5-year plan of 1951 to 1956, the Planning Commission set up the Central Social Welfare Board in 1953 to promote welfare work through voluntary organizations, charitable trusts and philanthropic agencies. In the second 5-year plan, what we saw was from 1956 to 1960, the state supported development of Mahila Mandals for grassroots work among women and to promote the small child norm. In the third, fourth and interim plans during 1961 to 74, the Planning Commission made provision for women's education, prenatal and child health services, supplementary feeding for children, nursing and expectant mothers. In the fifth 5-year plan 1974 to 78, which coincided with the discussion on Towards Equality report, it marked a paradigm shift where Planning Commission shifted its thinking from the welfare. Women were brought from the rubric of welfare into development, and the sixth 5-year plan during 1980 to 85 accepted women's development as a separate economic agenda and a multidisciplinary approach with 3-pronged thrust on women in health, women in education and women in employment were adopted. The sixth 5-year plan onwards, the plan document has been included as they have seen the separate chapter on women and children. The seventh plan during 1985 to 1990 declared its objective is to bring women into the mainstreams of national development. During this period, the Department of Women and Child was established within the Ministry of Human Resource Development (MHRD) of the Government of India. The seventh plan introduced concept of monitoring of 27 beneficiary oriented schemes for women by Department of Women and Child Development, and all of them were anti-poverty programs. The exercise continues and the number of schemes covered is being expanded. The women studies scholars consider it as a WAD approach, women and development approach. And the 8th 5-year plan during 1992 to 1997 projected paradigm shift from development to empowerment. It also coincided with the constitutional amendment of 73rd and 74, and it promised to ensure flow of benefits to women in core sectors of education, health and employment. Outlay for women rose from, say, 4 crores in the first plan to 2000 crores in the 8th plan. The 8th plan highlighted for the first time a gender perspective and a need to ensure a definite flow of funds from general development sectors to women. Plan document made an express statement that, and I quote, "The benefits to development from different sectors should not bypass women, and special programs on women should complement the general development programs of the state." The letter in turn should reflect greater gender sensitivity. That means there should be women's component, and this plan was also adopted gender and development approach, which became popular after the Nairobi forward looking strategies. During 9th Five-Year Plan from 1997 to 2002, it was stated that the empowerment of women was its strategic objective, and it adopted Women Component Plan as one of the major strategies directed both to central and state governments to ensure not less than 30% of fund benefits earmarked for women related sectors. Special vigil was advocated on flow of earmarked funds and benefits through an effective mechanism to ensure that proposed strategy brings forth a holistic approach towards empowering women. This period also coincided with government state adopting Women Empowerment Policy 2001, which gave a gender perspective also and demanded the budgetary processes should be accepted as a gender budgeting should be accepted as a general gender empowerment policy. National Policy for Empowerment of Women stated, and I quote, "In order to support better planning and program formulations and adequate allocation of resources, gender development indices, that means GDI, will be developed by networking with specialized agencies. Gender auditing and development of evaluation mechanisms will also be undertaken alongside collection of gender disaggregated data, which is very important for targeting specific sectors, and these data collecting agencies of the central and state governments as well as research and academic institutions in public and private sectors will be undertaken. Data and information gap in vital areas reflecting status of women will be sought to be filled. All ministries, corporations, banks, financial institutions will be advised to collate, disseminate data related to programs and benefits on a gender disaggregated basis. This will help in meaningful planning and evaluation of policies. Quote complete. During 10th Five-Year Plan, between 2002 and 2007, it was suggested that specific strategic policies and programs for empowerment of women should be adopted. The appropriate mechanisms and gender sensitive budget were promised, and dissection of government budgets to establish gender differential impact and to translate gender commitment to budgetary commitments was adopted as a strategic policy. The Ministry of Women and Child Development was established in 2006, that means during this plan period. It became nodal agency for gender budgeting. The 11th Five-Year Plan from 2007 to 2012 demanded under mainstreaming and also mentioned that gender equity requires adequate provision to be made in policies and schemes across ministries and departments. It also entails strict adherence to gender budgeting across the board. And 12th Five-Year Plan, which from 2012 to 2017, promised special focus approach to creation of enabling environment for women to become economically, politically and socially empowered. Now, gender audit of union budgets has been happening over last 20 years, and it has also major bearing in the budgetary allocations of different state budgets also. Gender budgeting has become very important empirical exercise, and it has very specific gender implications. Yearly analysis of the budget from the point of view of women is a must to enhance women's economic interest and socio-political standing in the economy. Analysis of budget from gender perspective makes us understand what are the nature, character and content of women's share in development cake. Women's groups and gender economists started dissecting union budgets with gender concerns from 2001 onwards, and the year 2001 was also declared as Women's Empowerment Year by the government. The government budget initiative started in July 2000 when workshop on engendering national budgets in the South Asia region was held in New Delhi in collaboration with UNIFEM, in which government representatives, UN agencies, media, NGOs, research institutions, civil society, members of the Planning Commission in South Asia region participated. National Institute of Public Finance and Policy was commissioned to study gender related economic policy issues which included gender segregation of relevant macro data, quantification of contribution of women in economy, assessment of impact of government budget on women, role of women that women can play in improving institutional framework for delivery of public services, and the policy alternatives for building gender sensitive national budgeting processes. Now, certain public expenditure schemes have pro-women allocations, though they are not exclusively targeted for women. For instance, Swarna Jayanti Swarojgar Yojana, Integrated Child Development Scheme, National Education Program, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, District Primary Education Program, DPEP, etc. The gender disaggregated public incidence analysis of elementary education budget reveals that girls received around 40% of total public spending on elementary education. On a per capita basis, the share of girls worked out to be rupees 286 against 344 per boy for elementary school stage. Study conducted that gender incidence of benefits of public expenditure is difficult to measure in precise quantitative terms, since the bulk of expenditures are meant to provide services that are essentially public in nature. For instance, benefits of expenditure on defense, maintenance of law and order, dispensation of justice are enjoyed by all citizens, irrespective of caste, creed, sex. Nevertheless, considering the gender bias inherent in a male dominated society, the budget should provide some idea about how much is earmarked specifically for benefits of women. The suggestion is not that the gender wise breakup of all government expenditure should be provided, but the expenditures meant primarily for women be shown separately so that they can be easily culled out from budget heads of social and economic services in which it is possible to segregate such expenditures. Efforts of gender economists were targeted to evolve mechanism to collate gender disaggregated data from relevant departments be developed to obtain gender-wise relevant statistical database, targets and indicators, provide gender audit of plans, policies, programs of various ministries with pro-women allocations should be conducted. Lobby for segregated provision for women in composite programs under education, health, employment, housing, rural development, etc. to protect the provisions by placing restrictions on their reappropriation for other purposes. Let us understand the discourse on gender budgeting in India during the last decade. What we have seen that in this decade, the discourse on gender budgeting has revolved around very crucial issues such as child sex ratio. The Census of India 2001 revealed further decline, and 2011 also had a very alarming decline in the proportion of girls in the population. More budgetary allocation was demanded to implement Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act to prevent sex selective abortions of female fetuses. In the area of reproductive and child health, evaluation of Chiranjeevi scheme to halt maternal mortality has revealed that public and private partnership in scheme allows private practitioners milk taxpayers money and without giving necessary relief to the pregnant woman. Only in cases of normal delivery, the private practitioners admit women for delivery, and in case of complications, they ask them to go somewhere else. The concerned women are sent to overcrowded public hospitals. In National Rural Health Mission, women health workers are not paid even the minimum wages, and they are paid only honorarium. More budgetary allocation is demanded to ensure statutory minimum wages to women community workers, named as ASHA. When we discuss integrated child development scheme, The restructuring of ICDS must promote convergence of several schemes of different ministries such as Ministry of Health, Ministry of Rural Development, Ministry of Tribal Development, JNNURM targeting children. Though the 11th five-year plan during 2007 and 12 had promised walk-in ICDS centers at railway stations, bus stands for migrant women and children, none has started yet. Not even the megapolis such as Bombay, Mumbai, Delhi, Calcutta or Chennai have such walk-in ICDS centers. Under the category of 100% allocation for women, that means budget of Ministry of Women and Child Development, the institutional support for women survivor of violence against women has not been quite satisfactory. Rehabilitation of victims of sexual assault promised by 5-year plan since 2000 has not been promoted. Domestic Violence Act, even for its implementation, we need massive budgetary allocations for the service providers such as hospitals, law and order machinery, protection officer, counselors and shelter homes. Budgetary allocation for, say, water supply and sanitation that affects women's lives greatly as consumers as well as unpaid and partially paid workers doing housework. The water politics is doesn't mention women. This has perpetuated a very unproductive female workload on fetching water from long distance. Indira Rajaraman from NIPFP has said that it takes away a lot of labor, and the same thing happens in case of collection of fuel and fodder where women have to put in a lot of labor. 11th five-year plan had acknowledged this fact, and but in reality nothing has changed, like no alternatives have been provided in terms of biofuel or smokeless fuel. Social security for women in informal sector, the bill on social security and now we have act since 2008. It was still what we see is that budgetary allocation to deal with the informal sectors workers who are working in hazardous condition, who have domestic workers or who are doing the young women workers working in a special economic zone, they are hired and fired as per the whims of employers, and there is no social security. There is a demand that informal sector workers should also be granted pension, 1,000 rupees by the state and the state government, and 1,000 rupees by the union government should be allocated per informal sector worker. So we need a massive budgetary allocation for the social security. Maternity benefit schemes also demands massive budgetary allocation, especially for the unorganized sector. Social Security Act 2008 has demanded. The special problems of women in the unorganized sector, they also need to be addressed by the budget. Women's right to education is very important. No efforts are made by the state or professional bodies of employers to give them like a basic human right of women workers. Supreme Court directive on prevention of sexual harassment at workplace is still not implemented by most of the private sector employers and media barons. Utilization of financial allocation for pro-women scheme is also very important. Only 8 to 10 states are making advantage of financial allocation to the schemes such as shelter for women in difficult circumstances, or working women's hostel, or a short stay home for women in difficult circumstances. The scheme Ujjwala, promoted by Indian budget, a comprehensive scheme for prevention of trafficking and rescue, rehabilitation and reintegration of victims of trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation. I think that is also very important. Implementation of creche schemes is also far from satisfactory. 3 meals per day per child for the creches are demanded. 11th five-year plan, which was demanded by the 11th five-year plan, and except for Tamil Nadu, we don't have cradle baby scheme in any other state. No status report is available on integrated child protection scheme promised by 11th five-year plan. Road and rail transport for women, I think they are very important, because a larger number of women are now working in the larger economy. India is undergoing U-shaped curve phenomena. women are joining in a great number in the service sector. But still, both in rural and urban areas, we don't have a state supported, safe, regular transport services. This also affects education of girls, where most of the high schools and colleges are in the major tehsil places or district places or in the cities. In conclusion, I would like to say that budget is a very important tool in the hands of state for affirmative action, for improvement of gender relations through reduction of gender gap in development process. It can help to reduce economic inequalities between men and women as well as between rich and the poor. Hence, the budgetary policies need to keep into considerations the gender dynamics operating in the economy and in the civil society. There is a need to highlight participatory approaches, bottom-up approaches, child budget, gender budgeting, local and global implications of pro-poor and pro-women budgeting, and interlinkages between gender-sensitive budgeting and women's empowerment. Understanding the relationship between macroeconomic policies and the union budget, state budget, local self-government bodies budgets in the context of economic reforms and globalization is a must, as it has influenced women's lives in several ways. It is good economic sense to make national budget gender sensitive, as this will enable more effective targeting of government expenditure to women specific activities and reduce inequitable consequences of previous fiscal policies. Gender Budget Initiative is a policy framework, methodology, and set of tools to assist governments to integrate a gender perspective into the budget as the main national plan of public expenditure. It is also aimed to facilitate attention to gender analysis in review of macroeconomic performance, ministerial budget preparations, parliamentary debate, and mainstream media coverage. Budget impacts women's lives in several ways. It directly promotes women's development through allocation of budgetary funds for women's programs or reduces opportunities for empowerment of women through budgetary cuts. So, as a citizen, it is a citizen, as a social scientist, as economist, and as a political worker, all of them, I think they need to be sensitive to gender budgeting processes and implement gender budgeting. They have to do the constant gender auditing, analysis of the implications of various budgetary policies that the state or central government adopts. Thank you.